Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profit. I'm Seth Ferguson. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our daily interviews with successful real estate investors. And I've put together the top 7 key market drivers I look at when analyzing a real estate market. Go to sethferguson.org to download your free copy. Our guest today purchased his first property at age 25 and has significant experience in commercial and residential real estate. Dave Childers is the founder of Residential Investment Advisors. Dave, welcome to Purchase to Profit. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks. Thanks for having me, Seth. Really enjoy being on these podcasts.
So let's dive right in and talk about your real estate goals right now. Where are you looking to take your real estate business?
Yeah, I'm trying to grow my portfolio to 1,000 units. That's kind of my short-term goal, or maybe a little longer-term goal. I started a brokerage firm that specializes in selling small multifamily back in 2011. And it's kind of the golden handcuffs. It does so well that it really takes from me spending time, diving in, analyzing deals for myself and for the group of investors I work with. So the last probably year and a half, I've really been trying to step out of the day-to-day operations with the Residential Investment Advisors, the brokerage firm, and train up some agents to kind of take over that business for me. Because my growth wealth building tool is the apartments and what I own. So, and I know that it's just a matter of doing it, right? We can all kind of have these goals. So, how are you, putting a plan in action that you can work to get to that goal?
Yeah, no, I hear you 100%. I'm actually in the same boat right now on the brokerage side. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. I sit down and analyze like how much I've grown my wealth by doing some deal and, divided by how many months I've been working on it. And it's like, man, that really is where, I'm going to grow my wealth. And, but it's, what I used to tell people is the equity doesn't pay the cable bill. Right. And so, I've always kind of looked at my portfolio of what I own as a retirement fund and had my day job. Just the two are almost the same because I'm brokering multifamily and owning multifamily. It's made me a better owner. It's made me a better broker, staying in the same realm every day. And so, but again, it distracts me from, growing my portfolio, my day job.
Yeah. And so that's really interesting. You said that, the equity won't pay your cable bill. So you think about it as a retirement kind of thing, but now you're actually looking to get out of let's call it the paycheck. So are you planning on hopping into retirement in a way?
No, people, if you knew me personally, I love to work. I really enjoy this. And I think that's the struggle too with the Residential Investment Advisors, the brokerage firm, is that I really love teaching people and training people how to do this business. And we really use that as a teaching tool. And so to walk away from that's very hard because I have great clients and, we've sold, I think we're closing in on almost 500 multifamily deals we've sold since 2011. So I've really helped people grow from a duplex up to a couple hundred units and, taking my experiences, good and bad, and training them through those. And so I really have a passion for it. And so people talk about retirement and I'm like, man, I really love this business. And I don't ever maybe see myself retiring, maybe working less, but never retiring. I make my own hours. I'm a driven guy. I'm here at the office. I'm the only one here today. Everybody else is sick or something. Nobody makes me get here except for myself. But yeah, the retirement thing, I'd like to work less, but never retire.
Yeah. And, like you mentioned too, it's for me, I feel it's the people that's keeping me in the brokerage side because you have so many really amazing people that you work with on a regular basis.
Yeah. And, some people I've sold to, I've actually partnered with buying larger assets. And so, it's been really a team effort to do what we've done. So it's getting that message out to more people and, showing them the benefits of multifamily investing. I sit down with business owners and entrepreneurs every day and we start talking about, how to grow their wealth, not from going to a day job. There's tons of successful people out there, but they're all going to a day job that they don't like, or they're having to work. I met a guy just the other day that owned over 100 Waffle Houses. at
Wow.
one time. And, he's looking to invest. People want that passive income, and not, he was telling us how he still had to fill in on 4th of July and different holidays, flipping burgers and working on the line in some of these restaurants. And, again, just looking for that passive income. So,
Yeah. Well, even the tax benefits, if he's owning 100 places, right,
right.
he's paying a hefty tax bill.
Yeah. But that's a cool thing about this business. I'm trying to show some of the other agents that work for me is the people that we get to interact with, like that, story after story of entrepreneur. And so, for me, it's been a growing experience getting to just sit down and have lunch and get to know those people on more of a personal basis. And you see that, they're good people that just are hard workers. And it's taught me a lot just being in this chair, selling multifamily. I'm a college dropout, so I've gotten to, align myself with I feel like some of the smartest people in the country, and we're in the Nashville, Tennessee area. And so for just a business owner and entrepreneur, I've gotten to grow just from interacting with those type of people.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I can say the same with talking with guests like you on this podcast,
Right.
that the quality of people and the discussions we have, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
So what sort of assets are you targeting now to hit your goal of, let's say, 1,000 units? Like what type of product?
Well, something that I guess I've started to realize over the last couple of years that makes me different is a lot of my assets, I've partnered up one-on-one with guys. So I didn't really do syndication. A lot of them were 50-50 partnerships. I like doing that. I like buying that, 40, 50, maybe 60 unit with one other person. I think, you start partnering with thousands of people and it just dilutes your equity. And for me, it's just not worth my time. I still love Class C housing. I just think that's what I've always done since 2006 when I bought my first asset is Class C housing. And I lived through the recession. I paid all my bills. It wasn't pretty, but we survived. And so again, that's kind of what we are always focusing on, those Class C. Obviously a C that we can make a B just like everybody else, or just some value add play in that space.
Yeah. Do you see yourself scaling up in terms of size, or are you pretty happy with that niche in that 50 unit range?
We definitely are looking at larger assets, and we've started. I've kind of gotten out of my box. I've been living under a cave here in Nashville for a couple of years, just doing my own thing, brokering. We helped a management company, had kind of a strategic alliance with them for a couple of years, and grew them to 3,000 apartment units managed here in Middle Tennessee. And I joined Rod Cleef's mastermind group last year, and that was just a catapult. It gave me some great ideas to see what other guys were doing to grow their business and just the influence. So I started a meetup. I've got a meetup here in Middle Tennessee. We have about 50 people that show up. But so through that, we're looking at partnering with, doing syndications. I've got a few guys that are good equity raisers, and that's kind of, I'd say, my weakness. I like deals. I like walking properties. I like the physical assets. The capital raise is again, kind of my struggle. So I've got a few guys I've aligned myself with that already have capital raised. And, we're looking at assets anywhere between Nashville. Well, something, again, one of the lessons I learned from being a broker is buy close to home, or if you're going to go out and buy a larger asset, at least have some boots on the ground, because I saw so many California investors invest here in Nashville that, lost everything because they couldn't just check on a vacancy. This happened to me over 4th of July. I came into my office and somebody had slipped the keys under our office door for a duplex that we own that's just right around the corner. And, I was able to go over that day, walk the unit, and check it out and figure out what we need. Already have the flooring company, give us a bid, already have painters. If you're, 8-10 hours away, you can't do that. And so that's just, again, a tip that I learned and something I saw. So, my criteria has always been a day's drive from Nashville. Again, I think as you get in larger assets, there's a lot more professional property management companies that you can hire when you can't find when you're buying a duplex or a small asset. But yeah, that's my criteria, is a day's drive from Nashville. So, it puts us up into Kentucky, Florida, Alabama, certain Mobile, Alabama. We wrote an LOI for the other day. We're looking at another one in Georgia. So yeah, that's kind of our criteria.
Yeah. And what would you say is your number one challenge right now in your business?
Finding deals. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's everything. I mean, we got people, all lined up for capital. Lending's easy. Bank rates or Fannie and Freddie rates are dropping. I'm going to be sitting on a pile of equity here and just trying to figure out. So, I mean, yeah, it's finding deals,
Yeah.
that deals that actually work. You and me and everybody are seeing deals that, brokers, are sending out, and just I can't make numbers work. And so again, back to me spending more time, just digging. I mean, I know they're out there. It's just a matter of how much effort I'm putting into finding that next deal.
Yeah. And, going back to your brokerage experience, like you will know a good deal when it comes across your desk.
Yeah. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse, because there's things that I just kind of look at and I'm like, no way, it just doesn't make sense. And, I've had to learn to be polite to some of these young brokers that are just getting their start. And I kind of want to, give them a hard time about how they underwrote deals or their expectations, and they think that they're, even underwrite or these young syndicator guys are wanting me to help them sponsor deals. They'll send me packages, and I'm like, this is realistic. You're not going to get these market rents, every unit turned in this amount of time, in 9 months or a year. You need to spread that out over 2 years. So I've actually been doing some coaching with Rod as well. And so it's been another outlet for me to teach people. So.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good point in terms of, you mentioned like the young guys kind of being a little too aggressive. That's where those partnerships come in really handy, where you bring in somebody who has a lot more track record and has some actual real experience going through a full cycle with an asset, right?
Well, and it's funny, even myself, I've got a friend, a partner that I send deals to that we're looking at, and he's got a full-time underwriter. He's got about 4,000 doors. So just to sit in the room with the two of them and to listen how they're going back and forth on a deal and changing numbers and, adjusting and what they're looking for is an education for myself. So, I'm always, again, trying to be around people that, are the next step above me for the same reasons.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what would you say are any routines or rituals that have helped make you successful thus far?
Oh man, just getting up and going to work every day.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. I put in my hours at the office. It's a direct effect, I think, on how many hours you put into something and the success you see. You can't work from 9 till 2 or 10 till 2 and expect, so I'd say over the last couple years, I've probably, drawn back from how many hours I worked. But, it's funny how people want to see your success today and they don't realize the amount of hours that you put in it in the beginning. I would take the laptop home and sit on the couch as we watch television at night or do something, and I'd be working and taking phone calls all hours. And now I kind of get to set my own hours. And so, those lists, I'm a big list guy. We were laughing, even things that aren't on my list that I accomplish, I write on my list just so I can cross them off. Um, Reading, I think that's the biggest thing now if you're getting into the business is being able to watch podcasts like this, listen to podcasts. When I got started, there was another guru out there that you had to buy his book of CDs that were thousands of dollars. I think watching all these podcasts, listening to them, you can get almost that same education. The conferences, the price of the conferences I've seen have come way down. They used to be a couple $1,000s. Now you can spend 300, 400 and get to a conference and network. So, being involved in the local real estate market just through we have a Nashville RIN group. It's the Real Estate Investors of Nashville. And man, I've been a member of that since 2006. And so, I'm not there every month religiously, but I'm plugged in, going quite often. And definitely when they bring in a speaker that speaks about apartments, I'm there. I think I go to probably 3 or 4 different meetups every month here in the Nashville area, besides my own that I lead.
Yeah. And you had mentioned something earlier about being everybody wants the success right now, but it goes like the saying, you're an overnight success, but it just took you 20 years to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you would have seen me during 2008, 9, those years and seen me cleaning carpet with a machine that I bought at my 114 unit or mowing the grass or, doing all that stuff, marketing the property, going out and handing out, business cards and running lease specials and the Craigslist ads. Nobody wants to look at that kind of stuff. I have people all the time like, oh man, I should get into real estate. I'm like, okay. And yeah, you'll be where I'm at in maybe 15 years or maybe less, but, it comes with a huge sacrifice. I mean, people always asked how my wife and I survived. I'm like, well, we didn't have cable. We went without a lot of things for many years. Even my children had something now. I didn't grow up in wealth. I didn't grow up around money. I grew up, middle class, maybe even lower middle class. And, luckily my father-in-law gave me Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was in college as a finance major. And that just changed my life, that book. And so, even my kids, I'm trying to figure out that struggle that, give them the opportunities that I didn't have, but not spoil them and make them appreciate what they have. And so I've taken, try to take some of the Dave Ramsey approaches for my children. And, they're 10 and 11 and 12 now. So trying to, how do we use our wealth to teach them and not just give them things?
Yeah, and I think that's a tricky thing. Like my little guy is 2.5 right now, and that's one of the things I'm thinking of. How am I going to introduce all the stuff I've learned so far that I was not exposed to at that age? So I don't know. It's but I think I would say my fear is I don't want to have that verbal diarrhea and just gush everything on him because that'll turn him off, right? So it's finding the balance.
Yeah, well, it's funny. My mom was in town the other day for 4th of July. She said something about buying a car to my daughter who's 12 and she's saving money. We're going to do we're going to match whatever they save. And my mom said something about an expensive car. And my daughter said, I'll buy what I can afford. And I was like, yes, 12 years old, at least, that got into her. So they're working hard, putting money away, saving, for their car, and they've got a few years. So, it's also like, how do I, show them this business and the benefits? And if they don't want to be part of it, there's no pressure there. But if they do want to come in, I want to expose them to it. Cause again, even if they get some other kind of career and they go into some other, career, I want them to look at investing, how I've helped people passively invest. And so, it might be them buying a duplex as their first home and living in one side. That's a smart move for somebody that's just getting started. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge and something that's on my mind constantly.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's hop over to a Keystone deal. So a deal that made a big impact on you and your business. Is there one that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of go back to this all the time. The 114 that I kind of reference a lot was, my first deal that I bought. I was 27 years old. I bought it with actually 2 other partners at that time, and we had converted them all to condos, and we're going to sell them off. We were going to walk away with millions of dollars. I was counting it before I made it. I had picked out my Mercedes that I was going to buy, and then the economy crashed, right? And so, change of plans. You got to be able to quickly react. And we bought one of the partners out. We undid the condo conversion, made them back apartments. But what I tell people is, I was sitting in a university town with 50% occupancy in a fall semester, not knowing a thing about running an apartment building. We were going to convert these and sell them off, and had been doing a lot of construction stuff. And so that deal really, it was blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, it taught me everything from, the maintenance side of it. Tons of maintenance guys screwed me over and took advantage of me. The management side, how to manage a manager, how to hire a manager, how to hire a management company, all those things. And then, just learning about properties, air conditionings, filters, smoke detectors, just kind of all those basic things, plumbing lines. So that deal really was I tell people my MBA into this business. I still have it. We put a HUD loan on it, got a management company that's been doing a fantastic job for 5 years. I go down there maybe once a quarter to check on it. But even it continues to teach me even to this day. I mean, we're getting ready to refinance our HUD loan on it, pull a bunch of equity out. And so, that one, I've had it for 12 or 13 years now. And it's just a constant learning, and it's really put me on that next level, just that one deal.
Yeah. And back when you were fresh, you were planning on doing the condo conversion. I'm assuming you were staying up all night, just staring at the ceiling when things were, when things were hitting the fan. What was going through your head at the time?
Man, just season of life. I knew it was going to pass.
Yeah.
And I knew, again, I'm kind of I tell people I'm like a Dave Ramsey and Robert Kiyosaki, like are battling each other in my stomach, right? They're having this fight. And so, Dave Ramsey always talks like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So it was just getting one apartment ready, one rented, kicking off the hard turns till the end. And just, again, one at a time, one at a time. And I used to tell my wife, it's just a season of life. We'll get through it. It wasn't pretty, but I knew it wasn't going to last. And that's really what accelerated my brokerage firm, is because when we start seeing all these foreclosures on duplexes and small multifamily, and we knew, that where the rents were, we knew what we could buy them for. And so really, at that time, I just didn't have capital to buy them. If I would have had the capital, I would have just purchased a lot of them myself, and I would have owned an island and been retired at this point. But instead, I figured out a way how to make money on it, and was from the brokerage firm. And so we just started brokering a lot of those. And I still remember back, I had clients, I laugh at them, I make fun of them, because when it started to slow down and that inventory kind of started going away, a lot of them were like, man, I'm just not going to do that deal. It's only a 25 or 30% return on my cash, and now we look back and like, what are we, I obviously as a broker, I was trying to get them to buy everything, but now they're like, man, if we could have seen the writing on the wall. And so I love it when people are like, well, I'm just going to wait till the crash. I'm going to buy some more. And I'm like, you didn't buy anything in the last crash. Like you sat on your hands, you were close to buying something. And then people forget that, banks weren't lending money. I remember selling properties where, a bank would give 20% and the owner had to bring up 80, and they were paying twice the interest rate. So I'm like, again, it's back to, I'll do it when it crashes and, hindsight and all that. But, you got to take action, whatever market you're in. If you're in this market, the old market, if you're going to sit there and say, well, I'll buy when it crashes again, I think you're going to be waiting for a long time.
Oh yeah. Especially if somebody has a crystal ball out there, I'll pay them $1 billion for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, again, so so that deal, again, it continues. University Lofts Apartments in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, it continues to teach me, and catalyst me to the next level. And I that's why I always think, is this that one deal, what it's done for my life and, my wealth and just, everything. So.
Yeah. And, a lot of our reviewers and listeners are, beginners or intermediates in real estate investing. And, one of the challenges is capital. And you had mentioned at the start that you've partnered with a bunch of people to raise some capital. What sort of tips or advice would you give to somebody who's a solid operator, but the capital raising isn't their strong suit?
Well, again, I'm not out there raising millions of dollars and have 50 or 70 partners. I think we have, out of our $30 million portfolio, there's, I don't know, maybe 8 guys involved total. And so, there's a lot of people out there with money that just don't have time, is what I figured, and so, if you can, if they trust you and I tell people, go find your rich uncle, and it might not actually be a relative. It could be just somebody you meet. And that's my story. The guy who really helped me get started was a guy from California that I met randomly. And, after 15 years, we're still business partners, still more like family, honestly, than friends. And so, there's a lot of people out there. You just have to open your mouth and start telling what you're doing. So one of my coaching students from Rod's program called me the other day and said, man, you were right. I just got to start telling people. My cousin or some relative saw his website that he had put up and, realized that he had actually been spending some time and paying for the coaching and getting educated, and said, hey, I've got, this money sitting in an account. Let's put it to work. So, not being obnoxious about it, being honest with people with what you're doing. I have a frustration with people that, claim that they're, own 2,000 doors because they put, $15 into a fund. So being honest with people, what you've actually done. And again, just telling people, I mean, it's like you've got the secret. You just have to tell people what you're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And, real estate's one of those things where a lot of people aspire to someday own real estate, but they don't know how to get there. So right. Just by talking about it, you're right. It's so attractive to a lot of people, and you just don't know who's listening.
Yeah, and so that, and for me, again, I want to edge. I don't, there's no smoke and mirrors. If you want to, fly with me to one of my properties and look and walk around and learn how I operate them and how I treat people, how I treat my managers, I'd love for you, love to use that as a learning tool. And so we've had people that we've sold, multifamily to, and then they've also put money in our deals. And so again, kind of educating and using education as a to raise funds or partners or whatever you're going to do.
Yeah, no, those are some great tips.
Yeah.
How has getting into real estate changed your life so far?
Oh man. I mean, obviously financially, I might have said it previously, but grew up middle class. My mom was a waitress for a long time, secretarial type jobs. Um, my dad was a police officer and then became a pharmaceutical salesman. And, financially, it's just, the wealth, I mean, not to get into specifics, but it's truly, put me at a whole nother level. And, and just the freedom, we were up, you know, uh, at our 100-acre farm that we own about an hour outside Nashville, and just being able to share that property with friends and family, and have that time with my kids, and riding four-wheelers is kind of our passion, and racing four-wheelers. And so, just to be able to be generous with your wealth. And it doesn't mean you have to write big checks, but just being able to, invite people to use a property like that, or, come with us, um, and do activities. And for me, we do race these four wheelers, and I'm able to, do a lot of work while I'm traveling. And so again, that's real estate's kind of given me that freedom. Some of it's starting to just be realized, after doing this for 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And, looking ahead, let's say 10 years from now, where do you see you being with your business?
I don't know. Obviously, I'd love to grow what we own, our portfolio larger. I'd love to have a couple agents here and having the brokerage firm just kind of running itself. Um, but again, I love doing what I'm doing. I don't see, myself stopping, um, anytime soon. And so, yeah, just, owning more doors that make sense. I'm not just going to go out there and buy anything just because I want to, get to my goal. So if it means sitting on my hands right now for a little while, I'll do that, until that next deal finds me or I find it. And then, yeah, just keep in this brokerage firm. I really like what we've done. We've kind of carved out a niche that nobody here in the Middle Tennessee area really does, or anywhere else I've actually seen. And really it's focusing on 2 to 50 units, and getting people started. And, I love it when I have these clients that, really scared of the business. They always talk about those midnight phone calls, and then I sell them a couple duplexes or even single families or a small apartment building. And then they call me and like, man, it's really not that hard. If you get a great management company and you have these partners, really, it kind of does itself. And so that I love when people have that wake up.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this then. So as somebody who works with a lot of beginners, what would be the one thing you would tell somebody if they're sitting on the fence and they're just, they're almost there to taking action to do their first deal?
Yeah, I've met a lot of people that have told me how much money they've spent on education, and I'm like, man, I'm glad you did that, but you got to buy something.
Yeah.
And time is kind of the ultimate healer in real estate. If you do make a mistake and you maybe pay too much, if you hold on to it long enough, I feel like it will come around. A lot of these people that got foreclosed on in, '08, '09, if they would have just held out for another year and a half and been able to feed that asset, nobody wants to do that. But, some of those assets doubled in value. And so, you know, do it. Just you gotta pull the trigger. You can't hesitate. You got to find the right one. But ultimately, I had a guy call me and he said he spent like $30,000 or $40,000 on education, and he backed out of buying a $50,000 house that was rented for like $800 turnkey. And I was like, I hate that you spent all this money on education, and that house right there would have been, great learning tool. But you've got to do it. So, and
Yeah.
another thing that I think a lot of people, beginners, is, they're again back to the sacrifice. They don't want to give up their Starbucks or their fancy car, to buy their first investment property, and they don't have that long term thinking. And so another thing that I think people's lifestyle that directly affects their ability to invest. And so that's something else I think you need to kind of take into consideration is how you live and what you're spending your personal money on.
Yeah, short-term pain, long-term gain.
Yeah. And back to the, get involved in all these groups, and nobody likes to be out till 9 o'clock at night at some of these investment group meetings, but man, you just got to do it. You got to make those sacrifices now. Again, back to Dave Ramsey quotes, live like no one else so you can live like no one else. And so I think that's really what you got to do. So.
Yeah, no, great advice. I love that answer. So Dave, if somebody's looking to get in touch, learn more about what you're doing, where can they find you online?
Yeah, so you can go to Cedar Rock Cap. It's all one long word. That's my kind of capital raising company, or kind of me as a syndicator and investor. You can go to ria-inc.com, ria-inc.com. That's the sales brokerage firm. All the podcasts I've ever been on are on there. You can directly call me from that website and kind of see a little bit more about my team on the sales side. And yeah, so those two, or you can email Dave at RIA or Dave at cedarrockcap.com.
That's perfect. Well, Dave, just want to say thanks so much for taking the time today and sharing those really good tips.
Absolutely. Thanks for doing these podcasts. I appreciate all you guys that are out there, spending the amount of time you do putting these podcasts together every week, every month, whatever you're doing. I know it takes a lot of time and effort, and every listener should appreciate what you're doing and the time and effort that you're putting in to help educate them.
Yeah, got to spread the word. Real estate's the best asset out there.
So, it is.
Yeah. Well, no, that's great. Well, just want to say thanks again. And to you, our reviewers, I wish you well on your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.